Run it up, then run it back. Run it up, then run it back. Run it up, run it back. Run it up, then run it back.
Oh, hello and happy Thursday, everybody. We're all in our different places from Vegas. How is everybody feeling? Clearly, I'm not awake yet. How are we doing, guys? I don't hear Lou. Uh-oh. That's not a good
That's
start.
my bad. I was on mute while you were doing your thing. But good morning. How we doing?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. We landed about an hour ago. Let's get this show on the road, ladies and gentlemen. We got some basketball to talk. Actually, there was no hoops last night. We're just all previewing for tonight. Warriors, Grizzlies. And the big news here is, of course, Dennis Schroeder finds himself in a new home. And I would think he would look at this one as a decent little upgrade. Perhaps his big debut with Golden State is happening tonight, Chandler. How you feeling about this for him?
I like it a lot. We always talk about maximizing these kind of budding stars that are aging a little bit, and it's exactly what the Warriors did here. Dennis Schroeder is having a career year. You can see he's averaging 18 points. He's being efficient. He's always had that explosive speed. He gets out in transition, which is exactly what the Warriors want to do. They want to play fast. They want to get out there. They want to launch a bunch of threes. So I think he's going to kind of create more opportunities, more wide open looks for the personnel that they have. Steph Curry and him should be a dynamic backcourt. I've always had some question marks on his character and you know, kind of locker room guy, but I can't see many people go into this situation, this organization, and ruffling any feathers. So I like it. Some people I see they call it a risk with kind of with the off the court issues, but I think this dude, personnel wise, talent wise, basketball wise, I think it's a perfect fit with just everything he does, the way he can complement all the shooting, the way he can get out in transition, create shots, play one-on-one basketball. I think it's a perfect fit. So I think it's one step closer to kind of maximizing and making the Warriors a little bit more of a contender than they were before this trade.
Do you have any hangups about it, Lou?
No, I have to agree with Chandler. I think he's going to fit in perfectly here with the style of play, the way that they go about business. You know, to speak to his character, Chandler, I played with him for 2 years. He's just not friendly. You know, that's it. That's the only thing I can tell you about Dennis Schroeder. He's just not a friendly guy. He's super competitive. Yeah, he's super competitive. Yeah, and he's just a hard-nosed. He's just a hard-nosed guy. That's just the way he goes about his business. So that can kind of rub people the wrong way. But he doesn't go out of his way to be a distraction or be anything like that. He's just tough, man. He just goes about his business, how he likes to go about it. And I think that's going to be good for them. You know, that's going to be in the same vein as a Draymond Green when you talk about guys that are going to protect their teammates. Look at what he did for Ben Simmons earlier in the year when one of the fans said something about Ben. He was the first person to stick his neck out. That's the same thing that Draymond Green would do. They are the same type of guy. So to have them on the same team, the way that they're going to carry themselves with that type of attitude, I think this helps the Golden State Warriors in the long run. Basketball-wise, he's going to be able to get that ball up and down. He's one of those type of guys. He doesn't need the ball in his hands to be impactful. You know, as much as the Warriors, they play with backdoor cuts and moving without the ball and playing fast. I think he fits in perfectly here.
I think the fun part, too, is that we get a little Ja versus Steph. I mean, who doesn't want that? We had a whole night without basketball, and then you give us this fun matchup, Lou. Who's going to have a bigger night?
By the numbers, it's going to be Ja. You know, Ja's had a lot of success against the Warriors this year. He's averaged 22 points a game in their meetings so far this year, and Steph has only averaged 13 points a game for whatever reason against the Grizzlies this year. So by the number, I got to give it to Ja. He's had a better rhythm against these guys. As we're looking at these, highlights, I've yet to see Steph Curry do any of these things. So, you know, tonight I got to give that edge to Ja today.
It's crazy because this matchup couldn't be any more different, right? It's a freak of nature, athletic, explosive, bouncy guard versus a nonstop, constant movement, greatest shooter of all time. So we're going to see a little bit of everything here. I guess both of these teams, they want to play fast. So we're going to see probably a lot of high flying action at the rim. We're going to see a lot of early and often threes. So I think Steph Curry will get hyped for this game, but I like Ja Morant as well. I got to go with Lou here. Ja Morant at home is much better. This team rallies at home. This team's starting to get healthy. They're starting to get their legs. They're starting to find their rhythm. I like Ja to come out and kind of protect home court tonight.
By the way, the Grizzlies are 18-9, and we all know sort of injuries all across the board, how people have fared. Are you surprised, Lou, that that's their record right now and they're sitting second in the West?
Yeah, because, you know, they're missing some of their main pieces. Even their young guy in Gigi Jackson, Jaren Jackson, those are guys that they depended on to win basketball games for them to be out there, be healthy, and give them a lot of production. They haven't been available this year, but they've had other guys plug in and play and give them a lot of different good things on the offensive and the defensive end. This is a team that's built on grit and grind. They like to grind games out. They're a great defensive team, great offensive team. And so they were able to weather the storm with all of the injuries and everything going on around their basketball team. So somewhat surprised, but they're rolling. They were a top 4, top 5 team when healthy, when Ja Morant was in the starting lineup. And now that he's back, he's been ahead of that snake, and they're still rolling.
Yeah, when you look at this team and you look how deep the Western Conference is too, it's really impressive, their record, considering the fact that Jaren Jackson's been their most consistent player, right? He's played like 25 of their 27 games. But then you look, from Morant to Bane to Smart to Zach Edey, who kind of came out of the gates early as Rookie of the Year candidate, they've all missed so many games and they're still finding ways to win games. So the rookie Jalen Wells has been terrific. Aldama has been unbelievable. And honestly, Scottie Pippen Jr., he's kind of found his role as this, backup point guard, bona fide starting point guard in the NBA with his play this year. So all 3 of those guys that I didn't think they expected to get this much production, they're all averaging double figures. They're all available. They're all healthy. So those guys have really stepped up in the absence of their main guys. So you can tell this team can go deep. This team, it's next man up mentality. They've had guys in and out of the lineup all year long. We still haven't seen Gigi Jackson, who's a dear friend of the show, who's going to have a great year. So this is not a fluke. This team is deep. They're hard. They're coached well. Taylor Jenkins is one of the most underrated coaches in the league. So they're on to something here. When they're fully healthy, they are an absolute threat in the West.
I think most people are happy watching them play again. It's fun out there. We got another game out west. Ooh, 10 Eastern. Lakers at Kings. All right, so we know that the Lakers started probably a little bit hotter than most people expected them to. That was at 10-4. 4-8 since, however. And then, of course, we got the blame game. So you got your defensive blames. You got your AD's not aggressive enough blames. You got your, hey, maybe the roster is just not that awesome kind of blames. I'm wondering, Lou, where you're siding on what the issue is with this Los Angeles team.
Listen, they're 14-12. Like, can they be a better basketball team? Sure, but they're over 500, right? So it's not time to have a fire sale. Yeah, every team is going to go through their struggles. Every team is going to go through lulls in the season where it just feels like they can't get it right. The Lakers have been one of them. I understand when you're America's team, everybody wants you to be perfect, wants you to play perfect. This is a competitive league. A lot of teams are gearing up to have big seasons, and they've given the Lakers somewhat some issues with trying to beat teams. You can blame it on whether this roster isn't built well, or Anthony Davis isn't aggressive enough, or LeBron James is getting whatever you want to blame it on. They're still a 500 basketball team. Can they be better? Absolutely. For sure, they can be better. But they've done a good enough job to keep themselves in contention, in playoff contention. And so for that, I don't really want to burn the house down. You know what I mean? I just feel like the roster not built really good. Last year, I was always saying, listen, maybe at that small forward position outside of LeBron James, you may want to go out there and get you a dynamic scorer. Go get you a Zach LaVine or a DeMar DeRozan, somebody that's going to hold it down in that position. They've yet to address that position like I think they should, and I think they still struggle in that area. And that's what lands them at 14-12 and just being a 500 basketball team.
It's like, what are the realistic expectations for this team? Like, what were the realistic expectations of Darvin Ham? Like, championship or bust? Like, look back with Darvin Ham. I don't know if you guys saw what he said to the media the other day, but look back what he did on that team just to get fired. And that's because it's the Los Angeles Lakers. That's why I think this summer we were saying this is a dicey job for JJ Redick to take, because there's a short string. This isn't JB Bickerstaff in Detroit, who's got a long runway of to show development and progress. They want wins and they want a championship and they want it right now. And this team is it's silly to me to have those expectations when you have this team that they have together. They're good enough to win some games, yes. But we said earlier, for them to even have a chance, they have to be fully healthy and they have to be damn near perfect. And they haven't been. And they're a middle of the pack team. And basically every statistical category, they do nothing elite. Some nights they play hard, some nights they don't. That was kind of their thing early, how it was just straight up effort. So they have a lot of pieces that I love. I love Austin Reeves. I love Rui. I love D'Angelo Russell coming off the bench, kind of being aggressive, scoring. But I do think that they are a piece or two away from being a real contender. LeBron James has got to be healthy. He's got to be dominant. And Anthony Davis has got to be a top 5 player in the NBA for this team to be a contender. Some nights they are, some nights they aren't. They're just too inconsistent for me. But I think we should lower the expectations for this team. I don't think they're a championship team.
That's the problem though, right? Because Lakers fans and Lakers organization and Lakers they're just never really always that realistic. Because even when they have the greatest team, sure, you can have all the hopes and dreams that you want to have, but when it's just the same exact team almost that you had last season, I don't really know why we have expectations, but here we are. And the Zach LaVine talk has begun. I love that because he could also go to Denver, you guys. I don't know if you guys are reading all the papers. How about the Sacramento Kings? That I think is another team that we have to look at and try to figure out what's going on. 13 and 14. I got to imagine they thought it'd be a little bit better than this when things started out, sitting in the 12th spot. Does this have to be a roster change?
You know what's crazy? They're the same situation as the Lakers. They're just Sacramento Kings instead of the LA Lakers. They are the middle of a pack team. They have a really good 2-3 players that, by the way, you look at DeMar, Sabonis, and Fox's numbers. They are all having unbelievable numbers. Like they are putting up points. They're efficient. So it's not like that. It's just not translating to wins. And there's just less pressure on the Kings. And I think we underestimated how deep the Western Conference was going to be this year. Because you look and there's legit 9, 10, 11 really good teams that all think they have a chance of winning this year outside of the Jazz, the Trailblazers, the Pelicans, teams like that. Everyone else thinks they're right in the hunt. So you look at this. Yeah, that's a little underwhelming for the Kings, given the big move from DeMar and kind of another year running it back with Murray and Kevin Huerter and Sabonis and Fox. I feel like it should be translating more to more wins. It's just not. And I don't know if that's fit. I don't know what that is, but I looked at just the other teams in the Western Conference and how much better the other teams got, and they kind of just stayed right there.
Can we throw that graphic up there again? I want to make sure I saw something correctly, if you guys don't mind.
Oh, the Spurs.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, no, I just want to make sure. Sometimes my eyes play tricks on me. I can't tell. Maybe it's exhaustion.
You're not excited about your team sitting in the 11th spot, are you?
Yes, I am. Oh, yes, I am. Yeah, this is called building baby steps.
Six start. They're not in the play yet at 13 and 13. Michelle, congrats.
We have to look at that again to see that.
They're good. They're gonna be, and I just like to take positives where I can find them. Thank you very much. We got another game tonight. Knicks at Timberwolves. This was a little interesting. New York going to Minnesota for this one, and it's Cat's first game back to Minnesota. I'm wondering, what do we think the reaction is going to be? It's not like he demanded a trade, Lou, right?
No, he gets cheered. He gets cheered. This wasn't a trade that he demanded. This wasn't something that he asked for. He went into the summer looking forward to running it back with this team, building on the successes that they had. And he got traded. The business side of basketball got the betterment of him, and he's a New York Knick now. So I don't think he has any malice in his heart for Minnesota Timberwolves fan, and I think the feeling is mutual on the other side. I think he gets a standing O tonight. Listen, he's been there from the start of his career, trying to do everything that he can to get them back in contention since the Kevin Garnett days. And look, and he did a great job, and he was right there on the cusp of doing something special with Ant-Man, and then, the organization broke it up. This wasn't a Cat call, but this wasn't a call from Cat that usually comes from players. Usually these decisions are made based on something that the players want. This wasn't the situation with Cat. So for that, I think he gets cheered tonight. And I also think he has a big night. He's going to be emotional about it. He's going to try to kick their ass, put as many points on the board as he can, and I think he does it.
I always love a return game like this. And from my memory, I don't remember Cat asking out. It's not like he was an asshole towards the end. So, this should be all love. Cat gave everything that he could to this franchise and kind of put them back on the map and kind of started talking about relevance for them again. So this I bet they're still a little salty because I do think that they feel like they lost the trade and they lost their best player that they've had in years to come. But this should be, there'll be a couple boo birds, but this should be all love.
I'm so glad you brought that up because it does feel like you broke up with someone that maybe was better for you than you thought. Now they've gone off and they're thriving, and here you are with the new person, and now they're coming to town. It does feel a little weird, Chandler. Like I'm not gonna, and maybe not boo worthy, but awkward. They won, right? The Knicks won that trade.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chandler.
No, I was gonna say the only reason they might boo is because of that, because they feel like the Knicks won the trade, because the Knicks are starting to roll, because the Knicks are a relevant team in the conference right now, and the slow start that the Timberwolves have had. So if there's any animosity, it's just probably because of this current state of the team. But also the Timberwolves are starting to figure out. They went on a little streak right now, but to me, the Knicks, yeah, they won the trade. They've won the trade since the moment it happened. When you can acquire a guy like Karl Anthony-Towns, who's a generational talent, who can space the floor, who is arguably one of the best outside big men shooters of all time, you win the trade. And then on top of that, you acquire a guy like Mikal Bridges, who's, you know, a top 5, top 10 two-way player in the NBA, to pair with another top 5, top 10 two-way player in the NBA, an OG with Jalen Brunson. Like, yeah, to me, the Knicks, the Eastern Conference, it is what it is, but the Knicks got better. And from what I've seen so far, the Timberwolves got worse. So it's not rocket science. I think the Knicks won this trade.
Gotta agree.
Gotta agree. I agree.
I was gonna speak to the breakup part. You know, sometimes when you listen to your homegirl that doesn't have a boyfriend and she tells you he's no good for you, and then you break up with him and you're like, why did I even listen to you in the first place? I should have kept this guy. I think that's what the Timberwolves are going through. You know, even with down to DiVincenzo. Sometimes these guys are system guys. They're gonna thrive in certain systems. He's played okay when available in Minnesota, but New York was perfect for him. He was able to go out there, be a dirty hands guy, go out there, do all the gritty, the dirty work. And New York Knicks loved that. That hadn't been his position in Minnesota. So that part of the trade hadn't worked out as well as it worked out for Knicks and what they got out of him. You know, and as far as Julius Randle and everybody else goes, they're still going to find their footing. It just feels like New York has already done that.
Look, you've mentioned it. The T-Wolves have been on a bit of a little run, and it's ever since Ant made the soft comments, which we thought were pretty great to see a young leader do that. They've gone 6-1 since that. Is it that simple? Should guys just be calling their team soft and keep it moving? Like, it just seems like what an easy fix that was, Chandler.
No, I just think sometimes you need a little kick in the ass. And I think Anthony Edwards, he's deserved that clout, that respect, and that voice in that locker room. And I think it all starts with him, just that leadership at such a young age. Obviously, he's producing on the court, so he can say these things. And I think if anyone is going to listen, it's going to be those guys in that locker room that know where it's coming from. Anthony Edwards has this relationship with these guys where it's not personal, and it looks like it helped. And again, this team was playing soft. This is a team that's a top 5 defensive team in the NBA. And so, yeah, they got a little trigger happy early. They started launching a bunch of threes, including Anthony Edwards. But this is a team that can still win games when the game gets slowed down, when you play in the half court, when offense isn't going and the guys aren't making shots. Still the number 2 ranked defense in the NBA. And that's Chris Finch. That's everything he's instilled in this franchise. And that's the personnel that they have around that can always sit down and guard. So I know the NBA's changed and the how we play and how fast we play has changed. It doesn't mean you have to do that. And the Timberwolves have a gift where they can play fast and they have talent, but they also can play slow and they can defend, which not a lot of teams do anymore. So I think they are in a great spot. I think they're going to continue to get better. I think to start kind of just getting the system down. How are we going to use Julius Randle? Dante DiVincenzo struggled early. How are we going to use him? How can we maximize, his role? Jade McDaniels, guys like that, they all got off to a slow start. Now they're starting to kind of develop that chemistry. They're starting to play better, and they're just playing harder and they're defending. And certain nights, shots aren't going to go down. The Timberwolves can still win because how good they are defensively.
We got to see what happens here. Guys, I got a weird NBA scheduling question. So nobody played last night, right? And teams that were not in the Cup final, basically a lot of them have had like 8 of 12 days off or some crazy number like that, right? And somehow, some way, Thunder had to fly to Orlando, and that's where they play tonight. So weird scheduling. They were just playing the other night. We know SGA and Jalen Williams combined for 39. That was a 16 of 44 shooting situation. And I drove back from Vegas yesterday for 4.5 hours, 5, listening to NBA radio and lots of opinions and talk. And all of a sudden, Lou, these 2 guys that we were just like, oh, the darlings of the league, the future, all the doubt has now crept in that maybe it just isn't enough with those 2. So what do you think about that?
That's what we do, right? We change our opinions by the minute. We change our opinions by the minute, by the game when guys struggle. I thought this was just a bad offensive nighting. You know, we were all in the building. We saw that game live. They had all of the pieces. They had all the intangibles. They just couldn't make a shot. You know, even it was some points in that game where they could have got it down to 4 points by a 3-pointer here or 6 to 8 just by making a run. They just couldn't get it right. Couldn't make shots go down. You know, even some of SHAI's mid-range game that, you know, he hangs his hat on just wasn't going for him. They weren't making jump shots, weren't as aggressive getting to the offensive, getting to the free throw line. And it stung them, you know, and the Milwaukee Bucks played a more aggressive game. I still think they're one of the best teams in the Western Conference. They're going to continue to be one of the best teams in the conference. I think they bounced back tonight in Orlando, you know, even though they just spent the last 5 or 6 days in Vegas. I think, you know, they go about business as usual and they get back on track with a win down in Orlando. But this still is going to be one of the young, more exciting teams in the Western Conference, and they're still title contenders to me.
Yeah, and look, that game was sluggish. That game was slow. They still got to their spots. Like Luda said, Jalen Williams missed some bunnies. SGA usually kind of capitalizes on those little pull-ups that he takes. And it was close in the first half. And then the Bucks went a little crazy and started knocking down all sorts of threes. But this is a tough break, honestly. We're talking about them traveling and them in Vegas. I think it's a tough break for the Magic. I think they got a pissed off, hungry team coming off for the worst performance of their season so far. The fact that they can have one stinker like this and people think they can like write them off or think anything's changed. I think they absolutely blast the Magic tonight. And I think they get back to winning ways.
Did the Bucks show the rest of the league something? Like, is there a bit of a blueprint for how you can handle OKC moving forward, or is that just a specific to that game situation?
Specific, because these guys still got 44 attempts at the rim combined, and I think the majority of those shots were shots that they liked. I think if they play this game again, this is going to be a completely different outcome. I think they would be more efficient on the offensive end. And it may be a closer game. Now, who wins? We can speculate all night about that. But I think they play a better basketball game. They just picked a bad time on a big stage to do it. And so for that, all of the opinions are going to creep in naturally. But other than that, they play this game over. I think you have a different outcome.
Yeah, and I think it's physicality. I think that you gotta to play extremely tough against them. You have to do what Milwaukee did, right? You have to dive on the floor. You have to piss them off. You saw Hartenstein get into it and get a little chippy. I think that's the kind of the format to play against the Thunder. They're young, right? They're inexperienced. Maybe they can get rattled. I don't think they can. I think this is just a bad shooting night for them. But that, I think, to me, if I'm going against the Thunder, I'm playing as physical as possible, especially when Chet is back in the lineup.
Well, we got to look at the Magic for a second here. Obviously, they're dealing with the 2 huge injuries to their 2 best players. And since Franz went out, you've got a lot of Jalen Suggs. He's averaging 22. Mo Wagner averaging 18 a game. I mean, I don't know, Chandler. Maybe this is a moment for everyone to sort of show what they can do. I don't want to say, is it a good thing? Obviously, you want to be healthy, but what are you seeing from them in the absence of the 2 best?
You see guys stepping up, and I'll be the first to say, I saw when I saw Jalen Suggs get that contract, I thought, damn, that's a lot of money, especially for a guy like Wagner and Paolo to be the building block pieces for this. But this kid can hoop. He is unbelievable on-ball defender. Now he's expanding his game. He's such so much progress on his 3-point shooting and outside. Look at it. You can see him creating his own shot here. Good ball in his hand at the end of the games. These are reps that are extremely valuable to a guy like Jalen Suggs that he hasn't really gotten with Wagner and Paolo. And then they got guys like Anthony Black, who's just like a shifty scorer. Mo Wagner, the brother that we really talk about, that he's doing all the little things. He's being productive. And so they do have all these guys that play hard and play the right way. They're not going far without those 2 guys on the floor with Paolo and Franz Wagner. But Jalen Suggs, to me, this is a great opportunity for him to kind of get these reps as the number 1 guy that he hasn't really gotten before.
Love to see it, Lou. Love to see it. It's just a smile. All right, guys, we got to take a quick break. Ooh, yay, video. When we come back, that man has a family.
Run it up, then run it back. Run it up, run it back.
Oh, why not? Little that man has a family, starting out with Jay Huff and Cam Johnson.
Oh, get a body, Jay Huff.
The big head fake. Ah.
Oh, and the split. Look how he splits the pick and roll here, Lou.
That's impressive for a big man. Yeah, a big guy splitting the pick and roll. That's good. Hey, woo.
By the way, is Cam Johnson getting traded? I feel he is, right? Jabari Smith.
Oh, no.
Lou Dort.
Here. Nice.
That's fine.
Is Cam Johnson getting traded? Probably. I think he should.
Yeah. Somewhere good, hopefully. A lot of Denver trade talk going on. I know. That's why I just had it in my head. Yeah, we've seen this. We have seen it.
Oh, yeah.
I'd
like to know how many career chase down blocks LeBron James has.
9,683.
That's not sound. I don't think that's. It's just not accurate.
Power rub. You got Trey Murphy the third.
Okay.
I feel like when you try and dunk on somebody, when you try and dunk on somebody off 2 feet, I feel like you don't fear whoever you're trying to dunk.
I don't know why. What?
I don't know. I just feel like it's a lot more aggressive.
Gucci! Yeah, Zoo. Yeah, Zoo. Little man, excuse me.
That's more embarrassing getting bodied there than getting dunked on.
I actually thought so too.
Yeah, that's just mono right there.
That's rude. That's right.
Face.
That's right into his face.
Lakers should get Caruso back. That's what they should do.
Why are you wishing that for Caruso? I don't understand. You got problems with Caruso?
Is Giannis's brother still on the team?
No, that's why he's sitting over there with us.
Yeah.
No further questions. No further questions, Your Honor.
Rest my case, Your Honor.
He'll be back soon.
I mean, he's kind of there. He's at the press conference. He's everywhere. It's weird. We gotta take a quick break. Look, thank you. I love my brother, but that's enough. We got some interesting questions and thoughts coming up next, including a little bit about Magic and the Lakers.
We looked at him, but his agent also didn't want us to work him out because he didn't want him to end up with the Lakers because we are already top heavy with forwards. And that's why they wouldn't work out for us. See, I was there, so I can tell Jason what really happened.
Okay, that's in response to Tatum saying he was never going to go to the Lakers or they didn't want him, what have you. It's funny now with hindsight being 2020, of course. So who made the bigger mistake here? Lakers not figuring this one out or Tatum not even bothering to work out, Chandler?
Well, I think it's worked out just fine for Jason Tatum and the Celtics and coming off a championship and hopeful for another championship this year. But this happens all the time. You see certain top guys not, work out in certain cities, and you see guys kind of, leak to the media that they want to go here and they'd rather go here versus there. So this happens all the time. And as a player in the draft, you look around, like you look and see, okay, if I'm going to go in this range from 2 to 6, what players do they have in my position and what's my opportunity? What's my role going to look like? Is there a possibility I start? So they were loaded with wings back then on that Laker team. So it kind of makes sense that the Lakers wouldn't take him. And obviously we didn't know for sure that he's going to turn into what he turned into, but obviously hindsight looking back, if the Lakers could have got Jason Tatum, then yeah, they should have done anything in their power. But this is a two-way street. Sometimes agents don't even let players go to certain markets or teams just based on what opportunity it may look like then and there, which is kind of silly because given the history of trades and how quickly teams move on from certain moves. But I think they're both, I think have panned out just fine for both. But obviously the Celtics and Tatum are in a much better situation now. But that could also change.
Would he have been Jason Tatum if he'd gone to the Lakers?
Yeah, exactly.
Would we have seen this guy?
Yeah, I think so. He was going to be Jason Tatum anywhere. Looking back since he's been in the league, they've got a championship. He's got a championship. I think it's worked out better. I think he's primed to win more championships at this point. But if you ever look at Chandler, you ever seen when they do the rearranged drafts from after everything is said and done, guys have done something, then they rearrange it and they say, well, instead of being here, this guy would have been picked here and there. Like hindsight is 2020, like Chandler just mentioned. who knows what happened? Who knows if it'd have been a better situation? You know, the Lakers, they have a history of building talent around guys like a Jason Tatum, you know? So I think the story probably would have been the same. I think he's still going to be the same player no matter where he goes. But, you know, who's to say who made a mistake and who didn't?
By the way, the draft, it's all luck. I got picked 38th, Lou, and I started my 6th game of my career just because there was it was like Chase Budinger got hurt and there was literally nobody else. So I got drafted to the perfect opportunity. We started off like 1-5, put me in the starting lineup, and that's it. A lot of guys that were drafted ahead of me never got that opportunity and ended up in Europe in 2 or 3 years. So it's all about opportunity.
A little bit of luck, just a little skosh. Lou, you get an anonymous NBA executive moment, but I will say it's not as bad as some of the other ones. So I'll preface it with that. But it is an anonymous NBA exec who suggested kindly that LeBron should request a trade to Sacramento to team up with Fox and Sabonis. And I'm wondering if you think this would make the Kings.
I wouldn't put my name on that awful take either.
Come on. Are they contenders with LeBron?
I'm convinced that there's no anonymous NBA executive. That's just people out there saying stuff on Twitter and we make it anonymous. This is an awful take, man. Like, and then what? Like, and then what? You know, you're talking about somebody that's 40 years old that we still have such a high expectation level for LeBron James. It's incredible. That's a credit to him and everything that he's done in his career. Like, we feel like no matter what team that we put him on, they're gonna be contenders. You know, at some point, we just gotta be understanding and realistic about expectation. Like, so should he request a trade to Sacramento? I mean, he's on a team right now that's sitting in 10th. Sacramento is sitting in what, 12, I believe? Is that what we're saying? Like, trade him for who, for what? I don't want to give this too much steam because it's anonymous. I hate these anonymous things. So I'm not going to be the person that has a big opinion about it and you scared to put your name on it. I'm not going to put my face and my likeness on it for you not to say it. So no, I think this is an awful take. No.
All right, no.
I'll put my name on it. This is so ignorant. This is dumb. I think LeBron makes what are they going to ruin their entire future? Were they going to trade like a Murray or a Kevin Huerter or someone like a young prospect for LeBron James for this year? This is honestly probably the dumbest take I've ever heard. He doesn't make them better. He makes them worse, and he makes their future worse. This makes no sense. Like, sure, well, could he win some games this year for him now? But yeah, let's trade for a 40-year-old guy who we don't know how much longer he's going to play to Sacramento Kings.
Yeah.
Get out.
It doesn't feel like that was the move De'Aaron Fox was waiting for the Kings to go make before he commits long term. The good news is, guys, the rest of the segment, no more anonymity. These are all people whose names are on the following statement. So followed up here with Chandler. Fat Joe said that Karl Anthony-Towns is the greatest offensive center ever. Do you?
He's a Knicks fan, right?
Very much so, yes.
Yeah, so let's take this with a grain of salt. I said he's super talented. This is New Yorkers gassing New York Knicks. Listen, he's great. He can shoot the shit out of it. He's not the greatest offensive center in the game today. So I don't know how he'd be the greatest ever, but nah, I'm not rolling with this. But this is classic New York Knicks fan celebrity boosting their guys, which I respect. And I love, and Karl Anthony-Towns is great. He's said it himself. He's the greatest shooting big, which I also disagree with. There's a guy, Dirk Nowitzki, that was pretty damn good in Dallas. But no, I can't buy this, Joe.
Hey, Chandler, there's a guy down in Houston that even guys like Karl Anthony-Towns, they go see him to go get their game together at that center position. His name is Akeem Olajuwon.
Pretty good.
I thought you were talking about Sengun.
I was like, what? Why are they going to him?
Hey, listen. Hey, I know it. Joe is doing exactly what Chandler just said. He's a New York Knicks guy to the heart. He's going to gas up his guys. And he's one of those guys, he's going to put ever, he's going to put greatest, he's going to put legend, he's going to put icon on his guys. This is his guys. That's his thing. He's going to gas up his people. But ever, no, this story is still being written. We got to stop. We got to stop putting ever on stories that's still written without everything that needs to go with it. In our world, in basketball, you need championships, you need records, you need history, you need all of these things. You need consecutive all-star looks. You need a totality body of work to put an ever on something. He's still building that story out. So Fat Joe, we don't agree, brother.
I appreciate
lean
it, though.
back. Lean back, Fat Joe.
Lean back on this one, Joe. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I appreciate, I like that he did it, though. It's very endearing. All right, Lou, Dyson Daniels said, New Orleans Pelicans are cursed, and he's glad he no longer plays there. There are teams in the league that some of us think maybe they are cursed. Clippers could be considered maybe one of them, Lou. You, of course, played there. Is there such a thing as I just can't seem to get out of their own way? Injuries, like, do you believe that some franchises are cursed?
I don't have enough information to say yes or no. Like, where would the New Orleans Pelicans be cursed? What's the backstory on that? I don't have the backstory.
I mean, I feel like the injuries is what prompted the start of this, and then obviously just the Zion chapter.
I mean, cool. But if you look at the history of the guys who've had injuries in New Orleans, they've also had injuries in other cities that they've played in as well. You know, from Chris Paul to Anthony Davis to Brandon Ingram, whoever you want to name, besides Zion Williamson, who hasn't played on another team yet, who's soon to do so. They've had injuries in other places as well, not just New Orleans. So are they cursed? I don't know. He can speak to that better than I can. I'm not rolling. I don't know. Just play better basketball.
When I see something like this, it's just there's some animosity between the player and the franchise and the front office and things like that. And you can tell certain guys, they throw a little zinger. Even Schroeder, when he just left Brooklyn, there's no reason for him to say what his son said to him afterwards. He says, "Daddy, we're finally on a good team," or something. Yeah, I mean, that's just a little shot on the way out because of some sort of bitterness or, whatever my relationship was there. But cursed again, the Zion Williamson, sure, is it cursed? Like, are the Trailblazers cursed because they drafted Greg Oden and he never played? Like, nah. So I don't agree with franchises being cursed necessarily. I do think some teams hire the wrong people in charge and the wrong decision makers, but cursed, no, I can't. No, I'm not buying this.
I mean, I like the idea of things being cursed, but yeah, whatever. All right, Chandler, prior to the Rockets game against the Thunder, Charles Barkley said that the Rockets, quote, have no idea how to play basketball. I was not talking about defense. Does he have a point?
Well, I understand what he's saying. He does have a point. Like, offensively, some games, they just look so stagnant. They take some of the worst shots. They shoot early in the shot clock. You can tell it's like they're like a high school team watching like Steph Curry play and then try and emulate that on certain nights. But I disagree just because I feel like they've made so much progress. I think Ime Udoka is one of the greatest coaches in the NBA, and he's got a system in place. But that's just kind of what they do when they're not playing through Sengun. It's a lot of two-man game. It's a lot of ISO. It's a lot of Jalen Green kind of going one-on-one, taking tough, low-percent shots, which I don't think is going to be a recipe for winning a lot of games because there's going to be too many off nights. And you notice he said not talking about defense because they play extremely well on the defensive end. But I think they don't have like a constant flow yet. They don't have a lot of motion and movement. And so I agree to that point. But I also do think that they are a team on the rise that's going to figure out with more reps with this. These guys have never really played in this type of system before. Jalen Green is a go get it. He's a bucket. He's a guy that wants the ball in his hand. So yeah, he might not have the best idea how to play off the ball, how to move and cut off Sengun in the post, how to slip a two-man game screen with Fred. So I do think there's a learning curve here, but I do think they'll figure it out because they have so much talent. And I think Udoka is a top 5 coach in the NBA.
Fair enough. Lou, you're up next. Amari Stoudemire recently explained that when he cut his hand on a glass casing back in the 2012 playoffs, because he was mad that the Knicks weren't moving the ball anymore. So my question first is, did you guys ever injure yourselves or have a teammate perhaps that had done the exact same thing because of anger, Lou?
Yeah, me personally, no, that's not really my style. I'm not a throw things, act crazy, knock the Gatorade bucket over and do all of that. That never was really my MO. If I had something to say, I always tried to master the fact of let me communicate with these grown men appropriately. I don't know if you noticed, I'm only 6'1", 6'2". A lot of these guys are 6'9", 6'10". I'm not walking there doing a lot of screaming and yelling. I'm gonna approach this thing with caution and respectfully. You know, and he's one of the 6'10", 6'11" guys I'm talking about. Like, I don't want to be in a back and forth with a Amari Stoudemire type guy, you know. So this is my position personally, but I've definitely seen some guys get really, really competitive and upset and put themselves in harm's way because of that. But yeah, this happens. This happens a lot more often than people realize.
By the way, Amari Stoudemire grew up, went to high school where I'm from in Orlando, and in like a summer league game, I saw him beat the shit out of a dude on my brother's high school.
What?
Oh yeah, he literally punched him in the face harder than I've seen someone get punched in the face. So this is part of Amari's MO, and I love him, but yeah, this wasn't really my my approach either.
To then explain to everyone, oh no, what happened to your foot?
It's like the touchdown. It's like celebrating the touchdown in football and then like tearing your ACL. It's just It's just an awful look.
It's not a cool vibe at all. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, the trade rumors, man, full swing. We're gonna look at a few of them that are out there when we come back.
Run it back. Run it up. Run it back. Yeah.
Like I said, I listened to a lot of talk yesterday, and the trade rumor mill is hot. So we'll start with Brandon Ingram. Lou, you're up first. A little bit of talk of perhaps him going to the Nuggets. And keep in mind, Michael Porter Jr. seems to be the common denominator in any of these Nuggets-related trades. Would you be in or out on this one?
You know what? I'll be in. I think this is a pretty good trade. You know, Michael Porter Jr., he was the first person to say this is going to be their last hurrah trying to win a championship. So why not get that party started with getting you up out of there and let's start again? But no, all jokes aside, I really love this for Brandon Ingram. You know, I think this would be a great opportunity for him to play alongside one of the more dominant and pass-heavy bigs in the league. I think he benefits from the way that the Denver Nuggets play. I think this will be a great fit for him. And this will be a fresh start for Michael Porter Jr. as well. For both of these guys, I think it's time for both of them to have an opportunity to try their hands at another team. And so I'm super in on this one for both guys.
Okay, we're in on
that. I like it. And I think the question with Porter early was his health and even the draft. The guy was supposed to be the #1 pick for months leading up to draft, and his back and his issues kind of made him slide a little bit. But now he's shown that he's healthy and he's an X factor, and he's having a great start to this season. As far as Brandon Ingram, I think he's great for the Nuggets. I think it gives them that kind of ISO scoring option that can kind of take some of the load off Jokic. I think people would talk about, is Murray that guy? Has he hit a wall? Is he taking a step back? Well, now you bring in a scorer that's just as capable as Murray, as Brandon Ingram. How are you going to guard all three of these guys at once? Brandon Ingram will have to buy into playing around Jokic. He'll have to buy in not being the #1 guy, which I think at this point of his career, he's mature enough, he's old enough to realize that that's what he's going to have to do. And that's for him to kind of turn this around, he's going to have to win. And I think this gives him a great chance to win, pairing him up with Jokic, Jamal Murray, keep guys like Aaron Gordon. They still need to beef up the bench a little bit, but I like this trade a lot for the Nuggets.
Is there someone who would walk into Denver and not understand that Jokic is #1? Like, does that person exist?
No, you know he's #1. It's just about fit. It's just about, can you play off him? Can the spacing work? Everything. Do you understand? You know where he's best, where I'm best. How am I going to be a contributor playing with him? But no one goes to Denver and thinks they're going to be the #1 man.
Some crazy person out there. All right, so the Jimmy Butler stuff it's ongoing, and we did talk a little bit about it when we were out in Vegas, and specifically a Jimmy for Bradley Beal. But we also know, Chandler, that Bradley Beal has a little bit of power in his own destiny here. So we didn't really get into that. Do you foresee a world in which Bradley Beal would be like, you know what? Yeah, I will go to Miami.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got a great situation in Phoenix right here, and for whatever reason, I don't think it's panned out. But I do like, on paper, it sounds great, right? Because Bradley Beal is a great shooter. He can stretch the floor. It doesn't really allow those guys to blitz and double team KD and Book in 2-man games. But on the flip side, Jimmy also provides them something that Bradley Beal doesn't: is that defense, that toughness, all the little things. So It's all a matter of fit. I think both of them, can make it work with Book and with KD. And I think this is just such a small sample size because they've been so banged up and injured. Have only played, not that many games together as that big three. So I think it's a little premature, and I don't know how much better they get with Jimmy Butler versus Bradley Beal. If it was me, I would let it ride, and I would look for other ways to kind of deepen my roster. But Jimmy Butler's a hell of a player, and if you can get a Jimmy Butler, usually you go and make that work. I just don't know if it's been enough time for me to pull the trigger on this trade yet, especially knowing Bradley Beal. I think it's him and LeBron are the only two with no trade clauses. So the guy that it would be for has to say okay to it anyway. So it's an interesting rumor.
It's a very high-profile one. Lou, Zach LaVine, it's never too early to start those rumors, but Nuggets were also another one of the teams that have sort of been calling around, putting feelers out for what they may or may not be interested in. Is it finally the year in which Zach LaVine leaves Chicago?
It should be, man. Give him an opportunity to win and flourish in his career. Obviously, this group doesn't work. They got DeMar DeRozan out of there, gave him an opportunity to win. It hadn't panned out as perfectly as he would like in Sacramento, but they at least gave him the opportunity to go out there and figure it out. They got to do the same thing for Zach LaVine. He's been there. He's been a pro. He hadn't made any waves in the media. He hadn't said anything distasteful towards the Chicago Bulls. Give him an opportunity to go out there and flourish, get a fresh start, have an opportunity to continue his career and see what he can build. So I'm in on the fact that they can finally do this. Hopefully they find a trade partner where it works for both sides and they can get him out of there and give him a chance to continue to go.
Yeah, Lakers, do it. Do it. You have a 25-point scorer that's shooting 50% from the field and 43% from the three. This is exactly what you need. You need a guy that can space the floor, that can knock down, that can create his own shot. This is exactly what they need. You can get off of D'Angelo Russell. You can get off maybe one of the younger assets, a pick, whatever, Rui, anybody. But yeah, I think this is a perfect fit to max. We always talk about maximizing, Jokic, maximizing Steph Curry. It's a smaller window to maximize LeBron James and Anthony Davis right now playing together at an elite level. So yes, I would do this. The Bulls have been in this position for, 5 years.
Ever?
Let it rip and send them to the Lakers.
So we got the Lakers, not the Nuggets, though. Interesting.
I like the Nuggets, though. Personally, I like the Nuggets. I think that'll be a better fit if the Brandon Ingram thing doesn't go through. But I think the way that the Nuggets play their three-point shooting team as well, I think Zach LaVine, he strives in that system.
It feels like the viewing public feels like Jokic's prime is kind of being wasted at the moment. So that's where I'm thinking all this Nuggets trade talk is coming from. I mean, look, I can only just go from what I hear. Guys,
I think we know right now, as is, the Nuggets probably aren't going to win a championship, so they need to do something.
Yeah, so something's got to change, and we all want to see him. I mean, I want to see him be great. Man, we did it. How y'all feeling?
It's tough one today, I ain't gonna lie. But we did
Happy to be out of Vegas and back home.
I'm going to bed
get some sleep
in about
today,
8
guys.
seconds.
Let's get some rest.
Run it up, run it back, run it up, run it back, run it up, and run it back.